My name is Evelyn, a 28-year-old office worker. I've been dating Andrew for 2 years, and he recently proposed to me. Andrew is 30 years old and works at a regional bank. His dad also works at the same bank and is branch manager. I met Andrew through a friend's introduction. He might seem a bit unreliable at times, but he's a kind person. I like that he's not the type to forcefully lead me. I've always struggled with people who don't listen to others and just pull you along in their direction. Maybe I prefer someone like him because my dad also listens to others and respects their opinions. I lost my mom about 10 years ago and have been living with my dad since then. My mom had always been frail, but her health worsened after I graduated from elementary school, leading to repeated hospital admissions. My mom had a weak heart, and I only remember her as always lying down. My dad, while running his company, took care of my mom and also looked after me. From my upper elementary school years, I started helping with cooking and taking care of my mom. I've been doing it since I was little, so I never thought it was too hard. Evelyn, I've always put you through a lot. My dad would always say, I don't mind at all. I would reply, to which my dad always seemed apologetic. Then, when I was in my senior year of high school, my mom passed away, and my dad's grief was immense. It made me realize how deeply he loved her. I thought it would be nice to marry someone who would care about me as much as he did. Andrew, whom I met through a friend, somehow reminded me of my dad, and I quickly fell for him. I knew he worked at a bank, but I didn't know his dad was also a banker, and a branch manager at that. My dad runs a small company, so he has dealings with banks, but probably not with branch managers. I even thought about joining my dad's company when I graduated from college. Can I work at your company, Dad? I asked casually, but he answered seriously. We can't have you here, because being family might lead to favoritism, he said firmly. Indeed, my dad as an employer would have to be careful around me, and the other employees might struggle with how to treat me. So, I didn't end up working at my dad's company. After accepting Andrew's proposal, I was set to meet his parents. I had already told my dad about planning to marry Andrew. Congratulations! I'm sure your mom would be happy, my dad said, almost in tears. After meeting his parents, I'll introduce him to you, Dad. If you love him, I won't say anything, he assured me. On the day I was to meet Andrew's parents, my dad, seeing me nervous, said, just be yourself. Pretending to be someone you're not gets exposed quickly. Have you ever pretended, Dad? I asked curiously. When I met your mom's parents, I tried using formal language I never use, and they saw right through it, he shared with a laugh. Thanks to my dad's story, my nerves eased a bit, and I left home more relaxed. When we arrived at Andrew's house, his parents greeted us. Thank you for coming all this way. Don't be nervous, we just want to talk, they added, surprisingly casual. It felt like I was a job applicant. Even though I looked to Andrew for help, he just played dumb. In the guest room, I handed the gift I brought to Andrew's mom. It's just a small thing from a famous local bakery. It was a specialty of a famous candy shop in the neighborhood. I've never seen this before. Such a trivial item indeed, she said, throwing the box carelessly. I was more shocked at how she mistreated food than how she treated my gift. As I was reeling from her actions, Andrew's dad asked, Evelyn, was it? Where do you work? It felt more like an interrogation than a conversation. Before I could even greet them, Andrew's dad bombarded me with questions. I work at Stellar Tech Solutions. I replied as cheerfully as I could. Ah, Stellar Tech Solutions. Do we have any business with them at our bank? My company is a large corporation, so we don't really deal with his regional bank. What does your dad do? He runs a small business. My dad's business isn't that small, but I downplayed it. So he's like a self-employed person. Andrew's dad concluded on his own. I wanted to correct him, but I didn't want to come off as disrespectful. Perhaps he thought he couldn't criticize me for working at a large company, but felt free to comment on my dad's smaller business. Was your mom a homemaker? Andrew's mom asked, pouring coffee. She passed away about 10 years ago. I've been living with my dad since then. Andrew's parents seemed taken aback by this. So, it's been just the two of you? Faced with the insistent questioning of Andrew's parents, yes, it's just been my dad and me. I answered clearly. Even though it's a father-daughter household, I was already working, and I was 18 when my mom passed away. I don't have the image of a struggling dad with a young child. It must have been hard without a mom, right? Life gets messy, doesn't it? No, I was already grown up, so it was okay. Unhappy with my response, Andrew's parents grimaced. I regretted being honest. They seemed to look down on father-daughter households. Did you use scholarship to attend university? The conversation shifted unexpectedly. No, my dad paid for my tuition normally. I spoke the truth, but Andrew's dad seemed skeptical. It's though to keep paying back scholarships after marriage. Many people are still doing it. He seemed to assume I had scholarship debt. How much do you have to pay back? He had convinced himself that I borrowed a scholarship. I didn't borrow any scholarship, so I don't have to repay anything. I was surprised that someone like him, who hardly listens, could be a branch manager. But it wasn't just him. Andrew's mom also had strong misconceptions. Struggling in a father-daughter household and having to repay a scholarship, she said pityingly. Planning to pay it all off quickly once you marry Andrew, right? She accused with a mean look. Looking to Andrew for support, he just nodded along with his mom. Left with no one to help, I had to fend for myself. There's no scholarship repayment, so don't worry, I insisted, clearly annoying them. Growing up in a father-daughter household, you can't listen to others, can you? Poor thing. Their prejudice against father-daughter households was frightening. Your dad might be in debt too. Andrew's dad speculated wildly. Rather than an assumption, it's more like a fantasy habit. It's tough for self-employed businesses these days. If he runs away in debt, it's a big problem for the bank. Once you marry Andrew, you might force our bank to lend you money. In their minds, they had concocted an elaborate story. We don't have any dealings now, but I'll remember the name and make sure not to lend. Andrew's dad said with a disturbing resolve. I had already given up on marrying Andrew by this point. More than given up, it was clear I couldn't live with these people. I felt embarrassed for ever thinking Andrew was like my dad. My dad was nothing like this heartless man. A daughter from a father-daughter household, self-employed with debt, is not a suitable match for Andrew. Andrew's mom yelled. I checked Andrew's reaction. He seemed to agree, nodding again. Disgusted, I realized Andrew's dad was boasting. There are many women who approach us for our status. Marrying rich is a shortcut to wealth, he said smugly. Seeing him boast while I was being insulted and Andrew not defending me, I lost all affection for him. The interview-like atmosphere I felt when I first came was accurate. This wasn't a meet the parents visit, but an interview to check if I was a suitable match for their son. It was an unfair interview, designed for them to feel superior. I realized I had come to a terrible place. In a way, it was good. Becoming family with these people unknowingly would have been awful. Though it was unpleasant, I was close to marrying into this. Still wanting to belittle me, Andrew's parents weren't done. But I wasn't that naive. It seems I failed your interview, so I'll take my leave. Leaving these words behind, I left Andrew and his parents and walked out of his house. Andrew didn't come after me, marking the end of our relationship. Seeing my strained face upon returning home, my dad asked, "Are you okay? What happened?" Though I had put on a brave face leaving Andrew's home, seeing my dad made all my tension unravel. I burst into tears and clung to him. Without a word, my dad just waited for me to stop crying. "I won't be marrying him," I confessed. Dad wasn't surprised, having guessed from my state that the marriage was off. "For the first time in my life, I was completely ridiculed by strangers." Crying so much washed away my sadness, leaving only anger towards Andrew and his parents. They looked down on us, saying it's pitiful to be in a father-daughter household, calling us poor. Dad just nodded silently as I vented. And they even assumed I had to repay scholarship for university and was marrying for that reason. Listening to my unceasing anger, Dad's brow furrowed. I was the only one venting my anger. But once I vented all my frustrations, I felt relieved. As if waiting for this, Dad finally spoke. There was no fate with Andrew, it seems. Indeed, there was no destiny with him. The words of his parents hurt, but I was most angered by Andrew, who didn't stand up for me. By the way, which bank does Andrew work at? I told Dad the name of the bank and where Andrew's dad was a branch manager. Which branch manager is that? Looking at a business card Andrew had given me earlier, I answered Dad. My lovely daughter has been insulted. Maybe it's time for a little payback. Dad said with a meaningful smile. A week later on a holiday, we had an unexpected visit at our home. It was Andrew's dad. Sorry for the other day. What brings you here today? More sarcasm? I said through the intercom. Evelyn, is your dad home? May I speak with your dad, please? Taken aback by his unusually humble attitude, Dad said, Let him in. I have something to say too. With a slightly intimidating look, I led them into our house. Upon entering, Andrew and his dad immediately apologized. We're so sorry about the other day, Andrew's dad said, bowing deeply. Andrew apologized in the same manner. We can't afford to forget the company auditing our bank's accounts, Dad said, causing them to bow even lower. Please, can we keep this incident from the main branch? Confused, I asked Dad, who then explained what had happened. The day after I visited Andrew's house, Dad went to Andrew's dad's branch. The branch manager had exchanged business cards with Dad, but hadn't realized what my dad's company did. Panicked, another bank employee explained to the manager that Dad's company was auditing their bank. You are the branch manager? I came to thank you for yesterday. My daughter visited your house. Your daughter? Yesterday? Andrew's dad was confused, not realizing Dad was my father. I'm sorry for any rudeness my daughter may have caused," Dad said sarcastically. The other bank employees were flustered, not knowing how to handle the situation. The president of the accounting firm that spoke directly with the bank's executives had come to their branch, causing a stir. The branch manager is confused, even though he greets Dad politely, saying he shouldn't be rude. Although they welcomed Dad respectfully, the branch manager was perplexed. "It seems my daughter might have been rude, but you were quite disrespectful too. I heard from her. We can end our dealings with your bank if that's what you prefer." "What?" Dad's command, meant as a joke, sent shockwaves through everyone, including the branch manager. Even Dad was surprised by the strong reaction. Dad hurried back home, and it turned out to be more effective than I had imagined. Andrew's dad hadn't realized until the end that my dad and the president of the accounting firm were the same person. My dad's company isn't well known generally, but seems to be a big player in its industry. Trying to give Andrew's dad a bit of shock, my dad visited him, causing quite a stir at the bank. The other bank employees were panicked and apparently urged Andrew's dad to apologize. Then, Andrew and his dad came together to apologize. "You shouldn't be apologizing to me. You should be apologizing to my daughter first." I was surprised by the firm tone of my dad, which I had never heard before. Andrew and his dad seemed even more shocked, crawling on the floor. "We are sorry for the other day. We were disrespectful and have reflected on it." "I didn't say anything wrong, so we're good, right?" Andrew said with a sarcastic smile, looking up at me. "I'm mostly angry with you for not standing up for me." Faced with my glare, Andrew pressed his forehead back to the floor. He probably wanted to reconcile with me. I had many missed calls from him on my mobile phone. I hadn't noticed them because I blocked his number, but after they left, I saw how serious it was. It was a good opportunity for my payback. How does it feel to apologize deeply to the father-daughter household you mocked as poor? Neither Andrew nor his dad could respond. "Give me my regards to Isabella, who always had snide remarks. The part about stopping the business was a joke, and I won't tell the main office, but please stay away from my daughter from now on." Dad spoke sternly again, and they could only keep apologizing, prostrated on the floor. By the time they left, Andrew's dad's forehead was red from bowing so much. Dad and I burst into laughter watching this. Mocked by us, Andrew and his dad shared a wry smile with each other. Their apology and my chance to talk back marked the definitive end of my relationship with Andrew. Later, I heard that Andrew's dad was demoted from his position as branch manager after the incident reached the main office. Andrew was transferred to a distant branch, seemingly ending his chances for advancement. I started dating someone new, introduced by a friend. I didn't want to experience the same pain, so I checked with him from the start. "I'm from a father-daughter household. Is it okay?" He looked puzzled but assured me it didn't matter. "Do your parents have any prejudice against father-daughter households?" He looked surprised again, but laughed and denied it. "We've just started dating, but it feels like things might work out well with this new guy."